Okay. Hold on. Oops. What is going on here? Cannot see myself. Hello, I assume you guys can see me, but I'm having what is going on here? Hold up. Here we go. Alright, sorry about that. Couldn't see myself to make sure I was live. But anyway, welcome everyone. And today I just wanted to talk to you guys about how Harvard changed the lyrics of its school song, which is also called an alma mater. In the spring of 2018, Harvard announced that it had changed one of the lines to its school song. On the face of it, this seemed like a very small change, very minor thing, not big news. But really, when you look at it, there's a lot of big things behind that. And it's a window into the mindset of the most powerful people in our country who run our country, the United States of America, as well as a window into the mindset and pressures upon the people in this country. Again, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me. My name is Chimoge, and this is Chimoge's Comments America. Please like this video wherever you're seeing it, because it's airing live on YouTube right now, but the replay will be up on a bunch of other platforms. So please like it, whether you're seeing it with me live now or in the future on a different platform, and share it with those you know. Let's begin. Again, sorry for that little delay at the beginning of the stream. There's a little technical glitch. I couldn't see myself to make sure I was live. Sorry my camera might be at a little bit of a weird angle. I was trying something different today with the camera placement. Tell me how you guys like it. I'm thinking I might go back to what I was doing before with the camera placement. But yeah, this is what it is for now. And I know it's been a while since I've been live. This is my first live of 2023. And I think the last live I did was probably November 2022. But as I hope you all know, because I made the announcement, instead of doing the weekly live streams now, I'm doing live streams once a month. So this is your monthly live stream, your live stream for the month of January. And also, I'm going to announce the schedules of the live stream sometime at the beginning of each month. So they won't necessarily be at the same time each month. It'll just be whatever works for my schedule. But anyway, let me share my screen with you guys. Let's share. Okay. So you guys can see what I see. And all right. So we're going to start with this Boston Globe article. So this is the article from March of 2018 saying that Harvard announces the change of lyrics to the school's alma mater. So I'm just going to read the beginning of the article, not the whole thing, because this isn't an article analysis. Tell me if you guys would like me to do one on this article in the future. I haven't read it before, but it just, but I'm very familiar with the topic. I just wanted something, as you guys will learn in a second. I just wanted something to kind of give you guys an extra introduction into it. So this is just look like a basic news article reporting the change. Here's a shot of Harvard Yard. But anyway, I'm just going to read the beginning of it. And then the link to the article is in the description of the video, so you can read the full thing if you want. Anyway, at Harvard University, changes have been made to the nearly 2-century-old hymn sung by students and graduates during celebratory moments at the school. The university announced this week that a portion of the lyrics to its alma mater, Fair Harvard, have been tweaked slightly so that the words are more inclusive, keywords there, more inclusive to the school's diverse community. The lyrics, "Till the stock of the Puritans die," take note of those lyrics. Let me open that up so I can highlight it. "Till the stock of the Puritans die," those lyrics, the last verse in the 181-year-old song, will be replaced with the line, "Till the stars in the firmament die," according to the Presidential Task Force on Inclusion and Belonging, a university group that launched a competition last year and solicited suggestions for revisions from faculty, staff, and current and former students. The goal of the competition, according to the task force website, was to, quote-unquote, produce a final line that connects the university's valuable heritage to a future in which that inheritance is passed on to all. 3 finalists, including the winner, were announced in December. Fair Harvard was written in 1836 by alumnus Samuel Gilman for the school's bicentennial celebration. And bicentennial is a 200-year anniversary because Harvard was founded in 1636. Okay. So, again, you guys can finish the article. I just wanted to give you guys a window into it. Then we can also take a look at the Wikipedia article here because this gives the full original version and also some basic history. But we already kind of read some of the key parts in that in the article. So let me just go out also and read the full original version of the song, right? So here's the original version. Fair Harvard, thy sons to thy jubilee throng, and with blessings surrender thee o'er. By these festival rites, from the age that is past to the age that is waiting before, O relic and type of our ancestors' worth, that hast long kept their memory warm, first flower of their wilderness, star of their night, calm rising through change and through storm. To thy bowers, I don't know what that means honestly, we were led in the bloom of our youth, from the home of our infantile years, when our fathers had warned, and our mothers had prayed, and our sisters had blessed through their tears. Thou then wert our parent, the nurse of our soul. We were molded to manhood by thee, till freighted with treasure thoughts, friendships, and hopes, thou didst launch us on destiny's sea. When as pilgrims we come to revisit thy halls, to what kindlings the season gives birth. Thy shades are more soothing, thy sunlight more dear, than descend on less privileged earth. For the good and the great, in their beautiful prime, through thy precincts have musingly trod, as they girded their spirits or deepened the streams that make glad the fair city of God. Ooh, that was a nice rhyme. They had bars. All right. Farewell, be thy destinies onward and bright. To thy children the lesson still give, with freedom to think and with patience to bear, and for right ever bravely to live. Let not moss-covered error moor thee at its side, as the world on truth's current glides by. Be the herald of light and the bearer of love, till the stock of the Puritans die. Okay. So let's take a pause here. Let me talk about that a bit. So obviously, it's written in pretty old English. I'll be honest, I didn't completely understand every single word of that. I'd have to analyze it. In fact, in the future, if you guys are interested, and or if I just have time, I might do a deeper dig into the full meaning of that song, and come out with it, because it's always important, what symbolic things an institution uses to represent itself, because that affects the spirit of the institution, and also it gives you an insight into what they're trying to do. So again, we could probably spend hours and hours fully analyzing that, all the spiritual, symbolic, and historical implications of that original version of the song, as well as the context in which it was written. However, what I want to point you guys towards today, especially, is that last line in the original song, "Till the stock of the Puritans die," because you can clearly see the way it's written, right? The way the song is written, they list all these things that they like, that are good about Harvard, things they were doing. And then the way it ends, it basically says, keep doing what you do, keep doing the stuff that we like, till the stock of the Puritans die, right? So until this stock of the Puritans runs out, whatever that is, and I know what it is, and those of you who have been with me for a while also know what it is, I'm sure. But I'm gonna leave everyone else in some suspense, rather. But till the stock of the Puritans die, all that stuff should be going on, right? At least that's the wish of the song. Okay. Then, here's another interesting thing to note. It'll kind of tie in with with my main point, even though this isn't the particular revision we're focusing on. But in 1998, the term sons was eliminated to make the song gender neutral. The first line was revised to read, "We join in thy jubilee throng," between 1997 and 1998. As a side effect of the change, the word throng, a verb in the original lyrics, became a noun. So let's look at the particular place they changed that. Throng. Where is the word throng? I remember it being kind of up towards the top. Maybe I'm remembering all those throws. Am I missing it? Any of you all see it? What do I even have with me today? Where is the chat? I don't know why I'm not seeing the chat. Forgive me, I'm a little out of practice. All right, here it is. Here it is. Okay, no one in the chat, but that's all right. Anyway, let's hold up. Let's go. Throng. Here we go. Should be. Oh, it was in the first line. Silly me. But anyway, at first, right, before 1998, the song read, "Fair Harvard, thy sons to thy jubilee throng." And then they changed it to, "We join in thy jubilee throng." And again, I don't really know what throng means. But the important part of that revision is that they were trying to make the song gender neutral. And this is important because Harvard was originally an all-male university, because it was founded to educate the men who would go into the clergy of the New England Protestant churches. I forget if it was one church or there were a couple related churches. But anyway, the clergy in the Protestant churches in New England church or churches were to be educated at Harvard, and all the clergy were male, right? So originally it was an all-male university. Then later they added Harvard Radcliffe, which was the all-female university, the sister school. And eventually in the 1900s they merged it, and really it was really like the mid 1900s they began to merge it. So think like 60s. I don't even know if they'd started to do it in the 50s. And it was actually in 1999 when the schools fully merged. So technically, at the time this revision was made, Harvard was still, I believe, or actually, was it that in 1999, I forget if it was that that's when they officially became co-ed, or if that's when Radcliffe dissolved. Let me look it up. Radcliffe, Harvard. But 1999 is a key date. Yeah, I'm right. So the Institute of Independent Study and Radcliffe College coexisted until 1999, when Radcliffe College and Harvard officially merged, right? So even though before that, for decades, women had been taking classes at Harvard, I think they might have even been having their joint graduation ceremonies already. But technically, Harvard and Radcliffe were separate institutions until 1999. So in 1998, when they changed the song to be gender neutral, that had almost happened, but hadn't happened yet. So this revision to the song coincided with them making Harvard itself gender neutral in terms of the students it admitted officially, right? So basically, this was meant to symbolize a change in Harvard's, I guess, institutional practices, but then also to give off the image that Harvard was serious about that, and I would say also pander, because again, that's another key part of what I'm about to talk about. This was to pander to people who really wanted Harvard to be a gender neutral institution, and people who were really devoted to feminism, right? So this was just their effort to pander, because and again, the Harvard's, I mean, how Harvard relates to feminism is a whole other topic. I don't want to get too off track, but basically the reason I say pander is because if you look at how Harvard moves and actually go there, as I have, right? I'm going to talk about that in a second. You'll see that Harvard is not actually serious about doing all the things that feminists advocate for. I'll say it like that. They definitely want to do some of the things, but not all the things, right? But in order to appease those more radical feminists, and then also just people who want changes in how gender is handled, right? Because one myth we need to get rid of is that only feminists want positive gender change. That's not true. But to pander to all those groups, they do things like this. They'll come out and say, hey, we really care about, gender justice. We got rid of the word sons in our school song. Okay. But anyway, the whole reason I was even taking note of that is this shows that there is a precedent of Harvard using this song to both symbolize changes they want to make, and also to pander to and deceive groups that they don't like and are in conflict with, but for some reason want to appease. Okay, now let's look at the 2017 revision. This is the key thing we're talking about here. In 2017, Harvard announced it was running a contest to replace the last line of the song, "Till the stock of the Puritans die." And also, it just occurs to me now, if I say that last word too much, they might censor the stream because they don't like that word. So from now on in the stream, instead of that, I'll just say D word, right? Till the stock of the Puritans D word. Okay, want to obey YouTube's terms of service, of course, and community guidelines. In early October 2017, semi-finalist potential replacement lines were announced. The final replacement line was chosen as quote unquote, "till the stars in the firmament D word." Okay. Now, now one of the sources that Wikipedia linked to here, actually I have it highlighted at the bottom here. Yes, it's a New York Times article that first announced that Harvard wanted to go through this change, and that was published in April 7th of 2017. I have it here. I'm not subscribed to the New York Times, so I can't show you the article, unfortunately, but I'll probably put the link in the description so y'all can check it out. But anyway, let me talk to y'all a second about that. So how does this relate to me? As I mentioned earlier, and I think I've mentioned before on this channel, I've definitely mentioned it before on the, I guess, regular Chimoge's comments. I went to Harvard myself, undergrad. I came in 2016, graduated in 2020, class of 2020. And so because of that, I was actually there when they began talking about this change. And I remember it because spring of 2017, what they're talking about, April 2017, I was a freshman at Harvard. And even that New York Times article is coming out in April. To my memory, they might have even been talking about doing that around campus earlier, because April 2017, I think that was pretty much the end of my freshman year. Might have, no, probably weren't doing finals yet, but probably heading there. But I remember hearing talk of that earlier. Perhaps I'm mistaken, but nonetheless, it definitely happened during my freshman year, right? And it was really interesting because I remember a big part of the convo was that a lot of us didn't even know Harvard had a school song. Like, I remember I saw articles about it. I heard people talking about the change, and I was like, we have a school song? I didn't even know any of that. So what was immediately clear to me then, which is point one that I'm bringing up, and I already alluded to it with the when I went over the 1998 revision, but a big part of why they were even doing that revision was simply to pander to people who are minorities on campus, minorities in the U.S., and then non-whites generally, right? Racial minorities, that is, because obviously, you know, non-whites are a majority globally, but the U.S. are a minority, and on Harvard's campus, we're certainly a minority. But anyway, because non-whites are oppressed, you know, there's obviously a lot of talk about racism, fighting it, making conditions better. And white liberals, like the ones who run Harvard, are big on saying they're serious about that, but never take actual action to change anything there. So what they tend to do is pander. So they'll make little symbolic changes and then claim that shows that they're serious, or they'll claim that as an actual tangible victory. And to be clear, symbolism is important. It's not irrelevant, but it's far from everything. And especially if you're talking about symbolism in one area like a song, that by itself is not going to free many people, right? So really, if you say we change the lyrics in our song, that means we're serious about fighting racism. We change the lyrics in our song, that means we've, helped black people, Asian people, non-white people in general significantly. That's just a completely false claim. It's not true. But anyway, it was clear to me then they were doing it to pander, because I, as a black person who was going to Harvard, didn't even know you had a song. So, like, that wasn't even on my list of things I would have wanted you to do to improve things, right? So, for you to come out and say, hey, we're serious about diversity and inclusion because we changed the lyrics to this song you didn't even know existed and you'd never heard. To this day, I don't think I've even heard the song Fair Harvard. Maybe they played it at graduation, but I don't remember it. Right? That just goes to show how little importance it is to me, right? Or how little note it is to me on, I guess, a personal an emotional level, I guess you could say, right? So changing that song doesn't do anything much. It's just pure pandering, right? And the reason liberals pander is because since they are a minority, right? Because again, as I've said multiple times on this channel, the political left and right just represent different white tribes, right? The political left is run by the Puritans, who are the ones who founded Harvard, and getting to that in a second, but the Puritans, the ones who founded Harvard, they are a small white tribe, right? And then also a couple related tribes that they are allied with, right? The royal family belong to one of those tribes, right? So that's who runs the political left, and then there are other white tribes that they have really deceived into thinking it's best to make an alliance with. So those people are on the far left, and interestingly, those white tribes are a mix of white tribes who are mixed race, as in they're tribes where almost all of them have small amounts of non-white ancestry. So that would be black or North African, right? So that would be like, certain groups who come from Eastern Europe, as well as like Iberians, Southern Italians. You'll find a lot of them there. Eastern Europeans who aren't of mixed race, but Eastern Europeans are in the hierarchy that white people have created among themselves through their fighting, are on the bottom, right? Slavs, because the vast majority of Eastern Europeans are Slavs. It's either Slav or Turkic people, although Turkic people, I don't know if they're necessarily white, but again, that goes to show that those are, those are people who are kind of on the border of white in a way, right? Because either you're mixed white and something else or whatever, right? So that's them. And then of course you have just clearly non-white people, like black people, unfortunately, very much among them, really probably the largest segment, who've just been straight up deceived into going with them politically. So that's the political left. Then on the political right, you have one group of WASPs that typically don't get a name. Even if you're going back in history, it's hard to find a name for the tribe, but people who've looked into them tend to call them the planters. These are the people who owned the slaves in the South during, I guess, formal slavery in the U.S., and these people form the bulk of the Republican establishment now. So it's those people, their allies. And then on the far right, you have like the Scottish people. A lot of them are called Scots-Irish in the U.S., but when you look at it, it's really Scottish people, other Gaelic groups, and then certain Germanic people, like a lot of Germans, like people of the less elite tribes of Germany, And then some other tribes that are also on the right, but most of those people are kind of on the far right, what you hear the alt-right, right? So that's who forms the political right and left. And of course, in the future, I've already talked about it a lot. In the future, I'm gonna go even more in depth, just breaking down on like granular detail, who all those different tribes are. But anyway, the whole big point I'm trying to get at, right, is that's the big tribal warfare that's going on in the West, right? And then on top of that, white people are ruling the entire world, right? So then when you look at white liberals, right, the Puritans, who are the most dominant segment of white liberals, they're a minority within the white race, and they're oppressing all the other white people. And then, of course, the white race is a minority globally. And then in the political faction they have cultivated in the West, they are a minority, and they have a large number of non-whites in the faction with them that they need to win, right? Because particularly in elections, they need their votes to win. So what does all that mean? All that means that in order to keep them happy without actually liberating them, right? Because the agenda is to oppress. In order to keep them happy without actually liberating them, you have to lie. You have to tell them things that sound nice. You have to tell them what they want to hear. Oh, we care about you. Oh, we care about fighting systemic racism. Oh, we care about people of color. And you keep doing that, and a lot of that is pandering, right? Just doing things to make it look like you care about another group or to appease them without actually substantively helping them. So then this song change is just another example of white liberal, and of course, if you're getting most specific, Puritan pandering, right? How they and their allies pander to non-white people in general, to deceive them and continue to oppress them. Okay, but then we have to ask ourselves, why did changing that line till the stock of the Puritans D word, till the stock of the Puritans ends, right? Why would changing that line be a potentially effective form of pandering, right? And that leads me into reason 2, right? Because as I've said on this channel multiple times, countless times, and I'll say again, the Puritans, and I mean, I just said it now, right? The Puritans are a tribe, right? The Puritans, therefore, are a race, right? Because again, tribe is a synonym for race. It's just in the English language, the term tribe tends to be used in certain contexts more than others. The term race tends to be used in certain contexts more than others. But they're both referring to the same phenomenon. Excuse me here, I want to plug in my laptop. It's not dead yet, but not that close. It's even at 38%. But I just I don't play with my battery, especially on live stream. So I just want to nip any trouble in the bud. Give me a second here, guys. Forgive me. Okay. But yeah, anyway. So the Puritans are a tribe. The Puritans are a race, right? They're a race within the white race. But most people don't know that, right? At least fully. They might have a vague sense, right? Because most people know that the Puritans are, I mean, anyone who knows about the Puritans knows they are white, right? So the reason that would be an effective, changing the song lyric would be an effective form of pandering is because you could say, hey, this song line references the white founders of Harvard University, right? But, hey, we want to show we love people who aren't white. and especially those who are attending Harvard College. Right? Because again, as I'm going to go into more detail about, Harvard over time has allowed more and more non-white people in, right? Non-white people are still a minority at Harvard, but Harvard started out with zero. Harvard wouldn't even let in most white people to begin with, right? So to even be at a point when you have enough Harvard non-white students on there to be making racial associations like a Black Students Association, an Asian Students Association, that sort of thing. To be even at that point, that's a major change, right? So then, and again, I'm not saying it's a positive. I'm not promoting like integrationist uh, ideas here. I'm not saying that like we're gonna end racism by going to school with white people. That's absurd. But I'm just saying it's a change, right? So then because of that change, right, you're gonna have a lot of people on Harvard's campus itself, and of course in the wider world as well, because Harvard's the most famous university in the world. The eyes of the world are always on Harvard. A lot of these people will want Harvard to do something about racism, right? So then Harvard is able to use that song to say, hey, because these Puritans are white, right? And white is bad, right? You guys don't like white. We know you guys don't like white, right? Let's get rid of them in the song. Let's get rid of the references to them and say something else. And that will count as inclusion, right? That makes the song more inclusive. And now obviously the logic behind that is muddled at best. Because again, I remember even at the time, even at the time that these changes were talked about when I was a student at Harvard, I remember me and other students of all races were talking about it, and we just thought, is referencing the Puritans in the song itself even necessarily racist? And the people I talked to, we weren't so sure about that, because if the school was founded by Puritans, and you reference them in a song, that isn't in and of itself pejorative to other groups. I mean, even in context, obviously there's a lot. I mean, there's just deep racism in Harvard's history and present, which of course I'm going to get to, but that doesn't necessarily seem to be it. Right? At the very least, changing the lyrics in the song to remove references to the Puritans doesn't lessen the racism at all, because again, that logic there is just muddled. But the key thing to remember is the logic doesn't have to be fully clear, right? Because all Harvard wants to do with this change is just trigger an emotion in the people they're pandering to, right? They want the people they're pandering to see that they removed the reference to some white group in the song, and then feel an emotion that says, oh, Harvard cares. Oh, Harvard's fighting racism because they removed a reference to white people in the song. Again, if you actually go into the logic, like, it's not clear that helps anything, right? It's not clear that the reference to the Puritans in the song itself, what was really the problem when it comes to Harvard. But if you're a person who isn't thinking too deeply about these things for any number of reasons, maybe you're struggling with mental and emotional issues, maybe just analytical thought, isn't your talent, Maybe you're just you're just kind of brainwashed. Whatever. If you're just not thinking fully clearly, you could just go with that emotion that it triggers in you, right? Or at the very least, if you come to Harvard, or anyone associated with Harvard, and try and say that you don't think Harvard's doing enough to fight racism, when they throw out this example of changing the song, it'll throw you off balance, especially if you're not a very good debater, right? Some Harvard associated person will say, "Oh, we changed the song to be more inclusive." You'll kind of go, "Eh," and maybe you won't go as hard in the conversation, right? So the whole point I'm getting at is that even though the logic behind changing the song to get rid of the word Puritan in it, the logic behind that being a significant, like a significant way of fighting racism, right? The logic that makes the song less racist isn't clear. It can still achieve Harvard's purpose to pander to other people because of the emotion that action is going to trigger in people, especially if Harvard spins it a certain way, right? But, and let me get to the main point I was trying to make. The second reason, and probably more important reason, they changed the lyric of the song is because they want to hide the reality of race and the reality of the Puritans and their connection to Harvard from public memory, right? Because again, Harvard was founded in 1636 by the Puritans to educate their sons who were going to be clergymen. That is why Harvard is founded. And for those of you who are familiar with spirituality, you know that the intention with which an organization or institution is founded will always affect how that institution runs and what it does. You can't escape it. You can do whatever you want to that institution, to that organization, to that whatever. But if the intention with which that thing was founded is not in alignment with what you're trying to make it do, you will not succeed. Right? For example, if I found a school and my intention is for that school to educate firemen, and then you come into that school and try to get them to start teaching people how to commit arson, you're not going to succeed, right? Either you're eventually going to get kicked out of that school, or the school is going to end up closing. It'll collapse. But because the intention with which the school was founded is completely opposite to the intention or to the goal you're trying to get that school to achieve, it won't work. If you want to teach people to commit arson, and obviously don't, folks, it's illegal, it's immoral, I'm just using it as an example. But if you want to get people to learn how to commit arson, you would then have to found your own separate school to educate arsonists, right? With your crazy self. But anyway, I'm just saying that to say, because the intention with which Harvard was founded was to educate male Puritan clergymen, and then these clergymen, right, because these clergymen were then going to help the Puritans in their quest to rule the world, right, because that is what they wanted to do, and that is what they're doing now. Then anyone who wants to go into Harvard and get them to do something that goes against that, or anyone who wants to prevent Harvard, from doing that in a friendly manner, if you will. And all those people are going to fail, because Harvard at its core was founded and designed to facilitate, to cause, right, to make real Puritan world domination, period. Right? So if people realize this, they're really going to start looking at Harvard differently, right? And on top of that, they're going to start looking at U.S. politics differently and global politics differently, right? So it's in Harvard's interest, and of course in the interest of the Puritans and their allies, right? Because they run lockstep with Harvard, to get people to forget that reality. Because again, they rule by deception, right? They don't want people to know what they're doing. They want people to be asleep while they're doing it, right? So if you can just get people to forget that Harvard was founded by Puritans to help Puritans rule the world, that, get people to even forget what a Puritan is, that's the best way to win that deception war, right? Right? Because especially when you consider that, as well, clergymen back in the day were not just, I guess, how we view them now. They weren't just people who would lead you in prayer, and if you're religious, you go to the church, you clap your hands, you have a good time, you go home. That's not what it was. These were the intellectuals, okay, of the time. Because for those of you who know how things work spiritually, right, and I guess scientifically really is a probably more accurate, all-inclusive term, right? Everyone comes into the world with different gifts, and some people are given the gift of being able to, how should I say it? Some people are given the gift of being able to access a lot of knowledge, right? Because knowledge, forgive me, I'm thinking of how deep to get into it, because that's even a whole nother discussion. But basically, I'll just say it like this: all human beings have equal access to knowledge, because knowledge, we can get it from outside, but we can also get it from inside, right? But some people just can do it better than others, right? The same way that all people can shoot a basketball. It's just, Steph Curry can do it better than 99% of people, right? Some people can do it better than others. The same thing with knowledge, right? And these people who are good at accessing knowledge are who we refer to as intellectuals. But we also know, if you study non-modern Western science, right? Because modern Western scientists are the only people ever who would dispute this, right? It's like 99% of people have seen one thing, observed it, said it's true. Then these Western scientists who, their tradition started in the 1700s, and they even say that most of the tradition is whack because they only acknowledge the science they've done since the 90s or whatever, right? Because they're always revising. But anyway, those people say no, it's not true, right? Chances are that minority is wrong. But anyway, right? What you know is that intellectuals are also very spiritually gifted, right? Because this knowledge they're drawing upon largely comes from spirit as well. So these people also have great access to spirits and can communicate with them. And that's why in virtually all pre-modern Western societies, right, people who were mediums, right, people who would talk to spirits, people who were diviners, people who were healers, right, because healing also had a huge spiritual component, those people also tended to be intellectuals as well. At least all those people were kind of in a group together, right? You would see that these people, people with these talents all tended to overlap, if you will. So it's very common for someone to be an intellectual who's philosophizing about the world, but also be a medium and all these other things, right? So even though by the time you get to 1636 and the Christianity of that period, they were Europeans were kind of lessening the amount they communicated with spirits, right, for a few different reasons. Really one big reason that's related to what I'm talking about, because basically the more you talk to spirits, the harder it is to oppress people, right? Because oppressing people comes from your masculine energy. Talking to spirits comes from your feminine energy. To oppress a lot of people, you gotta reduce the feminine energy, expand the masculine energy, right? And I'm gonna go much deeper into that basic science on Shimoge's comments, hopefully relatively soon. Watch out for that video on the other channel. But anyway, even though Europeans had been talking to spirits less, right? They were still spiritual, at least more so than now, right? Because that's why you even had the Christianity, which was the dominant religion in England, New England at that time. So when you hear that Harvard is educating its clergymen, or Harvard is educating the clergymen of the churches of the people of New England of that time, of the Puritans, what you should also hear is that they're educating the intellectuals and the scientists, right? Because scientists are also intellectuals. That's why if you look at so many of the scientists from the Enlightened period and beyond, up until, probably maybe if you're getting into the second half of the 1800s and later, they were religious, right? Like Isaac Newton, for example, the guy who allegedly discovered the concept of gravity. I mean, he didn't, but he, what would you even accurately say he did? Well, he did a lot of research to find out stuff that other people already knew, right? Isaac Newton was very religious, for example, right? He said one of the reasons he was even trying to find out that stuff was for the glory of God, right? And he was not unusual in that regard, right? So anyway, when Harvard is educating Puritan clergymen, whenever you hear that, you should also hear that they're educating the intellectuals and scientists, hard scientists, soft scientists, social scientists, whatever, of the Puritan tribe. And these are the people who are going to go on to develop the technology and the ideas that the Puritans are going to use for their world domination. And that hasn't changed, right? Because when you look at today, one, Harvard still has a divinity school, right? Harvard still has a divinity school, so they are still educating clergymen, right? To this day, one. But two, even when you look at the secular intellectuals that they educate, these people go on to lend their power and their ideas to institutions and groups that helped Puritans oppress the whole world in the form of American imperialism. Okay? How many Harvard intellectuals, right? How many Harvard um, biologists and medical scientists, doctors, for example, are a part of? Well, okay, I might be let me choose my words carefully here, because I want to say what I want to say, but I know there's also rules. I'm not in my own house. I mean, I am in my house, but not on YouTube. Let me say it like this: how many Harvard biologists and doctors then go on to be part of the mainstream biology and medical institutions that then do things to harm people en masse? Let me say it like that. I think that should be a good way of putting it. Right? One, how many Harvard engineers, as another example, do you think have gone on to build weapons that are used in war? Or another example, right? And we could keep going. How many Harvard intellectuals have come up with ideas that have been used to justify a lot of this oppression, right? When you look, it's clear the same thing is still going on. The spark that founded Harvard is still burning strong. You see it in the institutions, but if you don't remember what that spark was, it could be hard for you to fully see what you're seeing. Because I remember when I was a naive and ignorant freshman, I didn't know what I was getting myself into at Harvard, right? Because I didn't know this stuff, right? I didn't know this stuff. So I would see things that weren't quite right when I was there, but I didn't know what was all behind it, right? If I knew what I knew now, I wouldn't have gone to Harvard, right? And like, no disrespect, shout out to the cool people I've met at Harvard, right? You know, I still have friends I rock with that I met there, and you know, people I respect, but can't lie, institution as a whole, most of the people as well. I mean, no shade, I just gotta call it as it is. Me and them don't mix, because they are you know, they are trying to do the will of the intention that founded Harvard, and I'm just an Igbo boy trying to be free, right? So those two things, they don't mix. They don't mix. I'm doing the will of my ancestors. They're doing the will of some deceased Puritans, right? We on two different wavelengths. But anyway, the whole reason I'm going into this is, again, to show you how getting rid of that line referencing the Puritans in that song is just another way of covering up the true origins of Harvard, and how the origins of Harvard fit in with what Harvard is doing today. And of course, how that also relates to the political left in general, liberals in general, the United States in general, because of course the Puritans were one of the driving forces, if not the driving force, behind the founding of the United States, and the United States serves them the most, that is clear. And then white supremacy in general, right? Helps cover that up. And this is also why, and of course this relates to what I'm saying, right? This is also why liberals now are so big into saying that race is a social construct. that race isn't real. This is also why up until recently liberals were big on the colorblind ideology. I don't see color, I don't see race. And that started to make people upset, because that's a bridge too far. So they've tweaked the messaging. Now they say you have to acknowledge race, but they've come up with this other language. Oh, it's a social construct. It's not real, right? And the whole reason they've been saying all that is so that people will forget the true nature of race, right? Because race is not a social construct. Race is a part of nature. And because race comes from a Latin word that means root. And the root they're talking about is your lineage, your ancestry, the root of where you are from, right? Because race is just, and again, in English, we refer to it with many different names: race, tribe, lineage, clan, even family, bloodline. These are all referring to the same thing, right? This is the chain of organisms starting from the very beginning of time, going all the way down until it reaches an individual organism, right? Organisms that reproduce. That is race, your ancestry, right? That is what race is, right? So it's very real, right? If you say race isn't real, that is saying your ancestry isn't real, your bloodline isn't real. There's no such thing as a bloodline. You know how insane that is? That's like saying there's no such thing as numbers. There's no such thing as atoms. There's no such thing as air. It's a patently absurd statement. But they've used confusing language and other deceptive tactics to get people to buy into it, so that people don't take a good look at what all the races are doing and what problems all the different races are having, right? Because if you were to do that and also understand that one of the complicated things about race is that there are races within a race, right? So, for example, you have the white race, right? A group of a race of human beings that have their own certain characteristics. But then you have races within them, right? So you have Germanic white people, you have Celtic or Gaelic white people, you have Latin white people, you have Slavic white people, and then even within that, there are all these smaller groups. And they're in conflict, as I talked about earlier. That's that white tribal conflict I mentioned earlier that gets covered up with this language of left and right, right? But anyway, the whole reason I'm going into this, again, because I know I'm always connecting it to all these other things. I want to make sure you guys don't get lost, so I'm going to stay focused. The whole reason I'm going into this is because the Puritans themselves are a race, are a tribe, same thing, that still exist, are on a campaign of racial supremacy along with their allies, right? But because they're a minority, they need to rule by deception. So then this idea they're pushing of race as a social construct, that race isn't real, and also this idea that you shouldn't focus on race, is part of their deception. And this thing Harvard did, where they changed the last line of that song to erase reference to the Puritans, is part of that effort. Because whereas before, if you were to have heard Harvard's song or seen it, right, and you saw the Puritans, you might think to yourself, what are the Puritans? Oh, I heard about them. Maybe you do some Googling and then you find out the truth. Now that that's not there, it's way harder to do that. At the very least, the song is not going to make you do that, right? This is, This is just the equivalent of sweeping things under the rug. If you sweep it under the rug, it's a lot harder to see. So that's what this is, right? So that's kind of the main reason they did this. The pandering I mentioned before is one reason, but even deeper than that, there's this. Now, I was gonna originally end this live stream there after making that point, because those were the two things that jumped out to me when I thought of doing this live. But then, just now, just before I started the live, I actually thought about what they changed that line to, right? Because before I was just thinking what the original line was. I was just thinking about that. But then I saw that last line they changed it to, or the new line, right? And the new line reads, till the stars in the firmament D-word. Till the stars in the firmament D-word. Okay. And I thought, that's interesting. What does that mean? Because we can't, to fully understand this and everything going on here, we probably shouldn't just look at what the original line was. We should also look at what they decided to replace it with. And, as I sit here talking to you right now, I actually don't know what that means, but I'm going to do some research live here in front of y'all. See if we can get to the bottom of this, because I think this is important as well. And, I think it is also interesting that they, they replaced the line based on the results of a competition, that they didn't just, decide as an institution to do it. They got the public involved. So that's interesting. Off the top of my head, that just makes me think they wanted it to look like they're doing things democratically, because people believe in the modern day that democracy is the best way of doing things. So it just made them look more inclusive, right? Again, trying to look inclusive. Maybe there was something else behind that decision as well. And the person who won the contest, someone named Janet Pascal, a graduate of the class of 1984. So what does it say about how they selected it? Pascal's suggestion was selected by a panel of judges that include Marcialania Morgan, professor of African and African American Studies, Steph Burt, professor of English, and Kurt Crowley, the associate conductor of the popular Broadway play Hamilton. That's interesting. Daniel S. Allen, a professor and co-chairwoman of the task force, said in a statement that the revised alma mater, quote unquote, beautifully connects respect for our ancestors, not our ancestors, because this particular professor here is black. I think she's mixed race, but I mean, I don't think she's the other side is a Puritan. Definitely the black side isn't. So it's not our ancestors, but again, you can get deceived into thinking they're talking about you if you just go with the narrative they're putting out. But anyway, beautifully connects respect for our ancestors in the first stanza to an affirmation that any and all can embrace Harvard's enduring commitment to light and love, to truth, and the good of humankind. Again, I don't want to read. Maybe I could finish out the article. It's not very long. So again, that could help. So I guess you guys got an impromptu or just surprise article analysis. I'm trying to use less SAT words, because for those of you who don't know, I don't think I mentioned this on YouTube yet, but basically I'm trying to speak less English, right? And don't worry, that doesn't mean that those of you who only understand English won't get me on this channel, but I'm trying to, if I have to use English vocabulary, I'm trying to speak Ebonics, right? Because for those of you who don't know, again, it's a different subject. Don't want to get too far off track, but English and Ebonics are actually different languages. Ebonics is one of my native, really natural languages. Let me say that, one of the ones I naturally speak, and I want to do that more because when I speak too much English, it just messes up my system. I've realized, but it's kind of a bad habit. I tend to speak English, especially when I want to be very careful with what I say. It's a very bad habit I got. Um, but and but don't worry. I think even those of you who don't know English, when I'm speaking for real, you'll get it. And I will do some things in English because there'll be some like intentionally, because there will be some messages I want to get out that I want to make sure that people who speak English hear. But anyway, let's just finish this out. The swap was announced this week as part of the 53-person task force's report on the ways the school can improve its culture. Again, laughable. The group, convened by outgoing President Drew Faust, came up with 8 key points to enact change on campus. In a statement to the school community this week, Faust said she was grateful for the group's work, and when the occasion arises to sing the anthem, she won't hold back. When it comes time to sing our alma mater, updated at the suggestion of the task force, I will proudly give voice to the song's new final line, and its recognition that the pursuit of truth and knowledge belongs to everyone at Harvard, from all backgrounds and beliefs, Faust said. It's not the first time the lyrics to the, they spelled it wrong there, the alma mater, alma mater, have been changed. In 1998, following a similar contest, they also did that one by contest, a line that read, "Thy sons to thy jubilee throng," was modified to read, "We join in thy jubilee throng," striking a gender balance. Okay, so that's interesting. It'd be interesting to know everything that went behind this decision to do it by contest. That is, change the line based on the results of a contest. Might have been they were following precedent based on what they did in 98. I wonder why they made that decision in 98. But anyway, that might be something I talk about after another investigation. But what I want to talk about now is the meaning of "till the stars in the firmament D word," right? Let me see if I can figure out what that means. I actually don't know. Although as I think about it now, since it mentions stars, maybe the firmament, is that the US flag? I'm doing this research live, y'all. Firmament definition. Firmament, the heavens or the sky, especially when regarded as a tangible thing. A sphere or world viewed as a collection of people. Okay, so just thinking about it now, if the firmament is the heavens or the sky, that is heavily associated with masculine energy because, like, the sky itself is a masculine entity, masculine being, if you will, right? So that's why you'll see nomadic people and other groups who are very into enhancing their masculine energy tend to focus more on the sky, whereas groups that tend to focus more on enhancing their feminine energy focus more on the earth, because the earth is a feminine entity, right? But anyway, as I said before, right, enhancing masculine energy is very linked to conquest. So could that reference to the sky be another way of just, again, bigging up their devotion to conquest? Maybe. What is the firmament? The vault or arch of the sky heavens. The firmament is the curve of the sky, especially if you imagine it as a solid surface. Why do I think the firmament has something to do with the flag, though? Firmament, U.S. flag. Okay, here we go. Stars and Stripes Decoded. Come to think about it, I think maybe I'll do this on a live, maybe I'll do it on a pre-recorded video, but it would be good to look into the full symbolism behind the American flag, the red, white, and blue, and why they use stars and stripes. Again, I remember the basic stuff we were fed in school, something about the red representing like the blood of I think the people who passed away in battle, something like that. But I need to revisit that. But anyway, let's firmament. Okay, let's start here. There is much in this book, because this article looks like the review of some book talking about the stars and stripes, right? The American flag. There is much in this book about the origins and meanings of stars apart from their specific use in our flag. From Christian roots, we are told that the sun, the moon, and the stars are referred to in the Bible's book of Revelation and spoken of in sermons of the time. That's interesting. Importantly, the stars, positioned against the deep blue of the firmament, are laden with meanings. According to the author, they are related to the 12 signs of the zodiac, encoder of destiny. The founders thought of these stars in the heavens as a new constellation in the universe of nations. In some early versions of the Stars and Stripes, there is a circle of 12 stars with a single one in the center, the sun and the zodiac totaling 13. There were 13 colonies. Another source of the circle of stars is attributed to Rome, the founders' new model for the new republic. This connection is suggested by the ship ensign in a French painting of the Aeneas landing at Pallanteum. Aeneas being, of course, the mythical founder of Rome, by Claude Lorraine, 1677, which is specifically documented to have been known to Hopkinson, whoever that was. Okay, that's interesting. Let's look at the Wikipedia article. But part of me is so sure I've heard the flag itself referred to as the firmament. Is anyone with me in the chat right now? Can anyone comment on that? No, still only spirits in the chat. That's okay. I'm a medium. Okay. In biblical cosmology, the firmament is the vast solid dome created by God during his creation of the world to divide the primal sea into upper and lower portions so that the dry land could appear. The concept was adopted into the subsequent classical/medieval model of heavenly spheres, but was dropped with advances in astronomy in the 16th and 17th centuries. Today, it survives as a synonym for sky or heaven. Okay, etymology. In English, the word firmament is recorded as early as 1250 in the Middle English story of Genesis and Exodus. It later appeared in the King James Bible. The same word is found in French and German Bible translations, all from Latin firmamentum, a firm object, used in the Vulgate, 4th century. This in turn is a calque of the Greek, whatever that is, stereoma. Looks like it would be pronounced like stereoma, also meaning a solid or firm structure. Greek, that word means rigid, which appears in the Septuagint. I think it's the Greek translation made by Jewish scholars around 200 BCE. So I think that's a Greek translation of a biblical, or I guess Hebrew scripture book. These words all translate the biblical Hebrew word rakia, it looks like, used, for example, in Genesis 1.6, which is contrasted with shamayim, translated as heavens in Genesis 1.1. Rakia derives from the root rk, meaning to beat or spread out thinly. Gerhard von Rad explains, rakia means that which is firmly hammered, stamped. A word of the same root in Phoenician means tin dish. The meaning of the verb rk concerns the hammering of the vault of heaven into firmness. The Vulgate translates rakia with firmamentum, and that remains the best rendering. Okay, this is all interesting. But clearly, what I can get from this is that the word firmament clearly is referring to the heavens or the sky, and that and the stars in the sky, right? And that image is also deeply tied to the U.S. flag because of the stars on the U.S. flag, which were meant to represent the firmament. Let me even look it up. Do people call the U.S. flag the firmament? Okay. Let me look it up a different way. Nicknames for the American flag. Stars in Old Glory. Part of me is so sure it's a nickname for the U.S. flag. Blue, Old Glory, Star Spangled Banner. Okay. All right. So sure sometimes people just refer to the flag as the firmament. I'd love for any of you in the comments who watch this video later to let me know if that's true or not. But anyway, even if it's not, clearly the image of the firmament is associated with the flag because the stars and the blue section on the flag is literally meant to depict the firmament, right? And then, of course, we know the firmament itself, the sky, is very much tied to masculine energy, which is very much tied to, I mean, to be clear, it's not, that's not all masculine energy is tied to, and there's some negative aspects of feminine energy as well. So I don't want what I'm saying to become some sort of stick people use to beat other people with in these nonsense gender wars that go on online. But oppression is deeply or rather, I should say that masculine energy is a very necessary component of oppression. So if you want to oppress people, you need to become obsessed with it. So that's what all that's a part of, right? And then if you look again, first let me talk about an aspect of the original line that I think I referenced at the beginning, but I forgot to circle back on. So it reads, "Till the stock of the Puritans D word." And obviously it's implied through context they don't ever want the stock of the Puritans, because stock, it just means the race. That stock is another synonym for race, right? So they don't want the Puritan race to D word. So basically they're saying, do all these things we like, do all these things that maintain Harvard, that maintain the Puritan Puritan campaign of world domination, till the Puritans go away, which they want to be never. So they're basically saying, do this forever. Can't carry out our campaign of world domination forever. That's what they're saying, right? With the till the stock of the Puritans D word, right? Then when they changed it to till the stars in the firmament D word, well, you know, stars are older than the human race. And, if the human race ever, comes to an end, stars will probably still be there as well, right? So effectively, when you say till the stars in the firmament D word, right? Because you can talk about physics and something like the Big Crunch, how people think eventually the universe will shrink back together. And there's evidence that that'll happen from modern European science as well. But what they also say is that that'll probably start again. But basically, there will that kind of nuanced convo aside, the stars in the firmament will either be there for a very long time to come, like billions or trillions of years, or they will literally always be there. And maybe even if they go away, if they were to go away, they will come back again. They will. So effectively, this is just a slightly more complicated way of saying forever, right? Till the stars in the firmament die, right? Till the stock, or D word, till the stock of the Puritans D word. That was a kind of fancy way of saying forever that also bigged up the Puritan tribe and race, right? By calling them out by name and then just saying, y'all are always going to be here. We are always going to be here, right? This kind of does that in a sneakier way, because it's still saying, do all this stuff the song tells you to do and says is good forever, till the stars in the firmament D word, which they never will. But then the firmament, symbolically, since the firmament can also refer to at least a portion of the American flag, right? And the American flag is a symbol of America. This is a symbolic way of saying, do this stuff as long as America exists. Because keep in mind, even though Harvard is older than the United States of America, this song is not, right? And keep in mind, it was actually written during 1811, 1836. Okay, later. Sorry, but anyway, still 1836 is just 24 years after the War of 1812, right? Which is the last time that the U.S. was invaded by another country. So then in 1836, memories of that war, right, because that was war on U.S. soil, would still be fresh. So they still kind of might be some anxiety about getting invaded. And of course, there was even anxiety about that decades later during the Civil War. It didn't happen, but some people were thinking it might. So because of this, the people who ran America and Americans in general were very paranoid about that, and they really wanted to, um, you know, put in a big effort to make sure the country would survive. So then, of course, at that time, they would, they would Harvard would put out a song like this as their alma mater that kind of a little sneakily um, is trying to will America to survive forever, right? Because again, the America is just a tool of and house for the Puritans, essentially, right? So they're very tied together. So when you big up the Puritans, like the original song did, when you big up the Puritans, um, you are also bigging up America because it is their will that America will continue to exist and dominate. But then you come to today, this song is sneakily bigging up America because the stars in the firmament and the firmament itself can be, they have symbolically and spiritually tied that those ideas and those natural phenomenon, those symbols to America itself. So when you big those up, you also big up America, right? And then, of course, because America is a tool for Puritan world domination and a house for the Puritans, when you big up America, you big up the Puritans. So what this does, there might even be more stuff going on here because, again, I think this is deep, but at the very least, what I could say is very sneakily, they made sure the song was still doing the exact same thing because the original song was bigging up the Puritans and their will. The new song is still bigging up the Puritans and their will, just with different language. Okay, so again, I've covered a lot here today. I hope you all got it. If not, feel free to ask me questions in the comments. I'll do my best to answer, and I'll also put out more videos explaining this stuff in depth. But just to sum up the key things that I talked about today and the key takeaways I want y'all to get. One, Harvard changed the lyrics in their school song to pander to, you could say just non-Puritans in general, but especially to non-whites. One, and that's just because white people in general, and especially the ones in the U.S., have been so confused when it comes to matters of race and tribe that they think all white people represent them. So you will have a lot of very foolish Scots-Irish, otherwise Scottish, Irish, all these other sorts of people who think that the Puritans represent them. So they would get mad at something like this because they think that it's an attack on them when they don't realize that the Puritans are their enemy, that they're still fighting today, right? But non-white people are just clear on the fact that the Puritans and people associated with the Puritans, at least on an explicitly racial level, are not their friends just because we don't trust white people in general. But anyway, I just say all this to say the first reason they changed the song lyrics is to pander to those groups, right? Non-Puritans and especially non-whites, to appease them, make them think that they care about them so that these people won't fight them as much. They won't fight their oppression as much. One. Two, it was to hide the reality of race, that race is a part of nature, not a social construct. The true nature of the Puritans, the true history and origins of Harvard, and how all those things relate together. Because again, Harvard was founded by the Puritans, a tribe of white people, to help them dominate the world. That's what it was founded for, and that's what it continues to do. But by removing the reference to the Puritans in the song, at least the explicit reference. It helps them hide that reality. And then 3, they actually made sure that the song kept doing the same thing it was originally doing with the way they changed it, because the new line that they replaced the old line with, still calls upon the same spirit and the same people, just in a sneakier way, right? So the big reason I'm giving all of you this information is just to give you guys an example of the tricks they play, why they play them. So the biggest takeaway I want y'all to get away from today is to just don't fall for the tricks. Don't fall for the tricks that these people who run the U.S. actually care about people who are not of their race, especially if you're not white. They don't care about you. It's just pandering. Don't fall for their tricks when they tell you that race isn't real or that you shouldn't worry about it. It's very real. You should think about it a lot, because it's very crucial to a lot of basically everything happening in your life, whether you live in the U.S. or not. And on this channel specifically, because one of the main things I'm talking about is how a lot of some specific race-related things that are happening in the U.S. that need to be taken care of, or that you need to take action to make sure don't hurt you very soon. One of those is the upcoming, civil war that looks like it's going to happen in the U.S. The second thing is the black vote, right? Black people who live in America need to take another look at how we vote, because it's not in our best interest. And the third reason, which is related to that, of course, is that black people need to leave the U.S. because our race very soon will be intact in such a way in this country that people will be trying to remove us. They're going to attack the black race in the U.S. in such a way as to remove us. And by they, I mean all white people, right? So I'm just saying all that to say those big issues, along with all the other issues happening in the U.S. that aren't unique to the U.S., just general economic mistreatment of people who aren't of the most dominant race, all that kind of stuff. All that stuff going on is very deeply tied to race. So if you're not thinking about race in general, your race, any of those things, you don't have a chance to fix any of those problems, or even just survive to live another day, right? So anyway, please keep all that in mind, and then share this knowledge with other people you know, so that they will start to do the right thing when it comes to these issues. So anyway, please like this video and share it with other people you know. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and then also hit the bell icon so that you get a notification whenever I do a live stream or put out a pre-recorded video. If you're on any other platform, please give me a follow so that you can see my videos. Please also join my Patreon. I have the link to the Patreon in my description, and it's also on my channel if you're on YouTube or on other platforms, my account or channel. There's different platforms with different names for it, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Just hit the link to the Patreon, join. You can get some exclusive information, exclusive access to me, and exclusive perks, including at the highest level. You can get merchandise. That's stuff like teacups and also clothes, right? So please join the Patreon. You can get all that good stuff. Please also join my email and phone list. This is a new thing that I just created. I have a form to fill out. It's in the description of the video. It's also on the channel, wherever you're watching this. I'm going to start an email list and a newsletter, as well as a phone list, for lack of a better word, just because I want to I want another way to keep y'all up to date about what I'm doing, what's going on with the channel. So please click the link, fill out the form. It takes 2 seconds. Just ask for your email and your phone. I'd love for you to give me both email and phone, but if you're only comfortable giving one, that's fine as well. Just just make sure that you give me some of that contact info so that I can keep you guys up to date. And then also donate. So please hit and actually let me get rid of this and make myself big again. Sorry about that. So you can fully see me. But yeah, as I was saying, please also donate. So the link to donate is in the description. So you can donate using PayPal. You can, so PayPal is obviously worldwide. If you're in the US, you could also use Cash App and Venmo. I think those work for other Western countries, but I know for a lot of non-Western countries, you can't use Cash App and Venmo, unfortunately, but you can definitely use PayPal. If you're in the US and certain other countries, you can use Venmo, Cash App, and then you can even just donate directly by putting in your credit or debit card information, if that's what you want to do. Also, if you're watching this on Twitch, there's a donate button, so you can hit the donate button. So please do that as well. That's another way to donate, because your donations obviously help support me, help me keep doing what I'm doing, putting out this information. And then lastly, I want to kind of address my live stream schedule. I did say it at the beginning, but I just want to say it again. Originally, I was doing my live streams once a week, but now I'm doing them once a month. So this is the live stream on this channel for this month. So I'm gonna announce in a couple weeks, excuse me, when I'm gonna do the live stream for February. So that'll be the date and time. And typically at either the first or second week of every month, that's when I'm gonna announce when I do the live stream. And when it is each month will just depend on my schedule. So I'll keep you all posted about that. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Again, please like, share the video, and then subscribe or follow me. And then, you guys are going to also get a lot of pre-recorded videos, a lot of shorter clips that are outtakes of the longer videos. Because I know, not everyone gets to see all the longer videos. Not everyone's into the longer videos. But if I can get out some short clips of these, hot moments that happen during the longer videos, I know a lot of y'all like that as well. And even some of you who watch the the longer videos as well, you want to be reminded. So all that'll be going up, and then of course next month I'll be going live. And as always, I'm looking forward to reading your comments and interacting with you on Twitter, because of course I'm on Twitter as well. So yeah, thank you very much, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.